Okay, we were talking about the last was we had gotten up to night. Well, the Pixie had just burned down, but I wanted to go back a little bit and talk about what it was like raising three kids all the year apart, and how much support you got from your parents and the grandparents and that sort of thing. I mean, how difficult was it to raise three young children?
At the time, it didn't seem that difficult, I guess. Because I was young and dumb and didn't know any better. Never really been around babies. I've never been around kids. So it's something that came and you had to do it and you did it. As far as getting support, well, I had two while we lived in Reading. I was pregnant with Margaret. Your father was going to school. He left at 5:30 in the morning. Get home to 6:30 at night. Usually 2 nights a week. One night he got home earlier. He'd go and work at the Mount Penn Pharmacy. And Saturdays he worked at the Mount Penn Pharmacy. And then Sunday, at least one Sunday a month, or maybe it was 2, I don't remember, he was in the Air Force Reserves. Because he had been in the Air Force and been washed out, so he had to stay in the reserves. We didn't have a lot of time together, really. Grandparents, grandmother and grandfather would never take everybody all at once. They only took one at a time.
Oh.
But that was all right. Don't remember them taking a lot at the time when we were still at Chestnut Street. It was once we had moved to Allentown, and you were a little older, like the time we were, 2, 3, 4 years old, and it was more of them coming and picking you up and taking you to Birdsboro for a weekend. But again, it was one at a time.
Yeah.
And Nana, of course, once we moved downtown, she didn't get involved that much, and even when we were in Reading, she wasn't involved that much because she was also working at the pharmacy. She was making all the deliveries. She took Baca his meals every night. So she was busy. She was kind enough to have us for dinner on a Saturday night or a Sunday afternoon, and that was a big deal.
How was Pop as far as taking care of kids and giving you a break?
He was good, I can't say, but he didn't have time to really give me a break.
Yeah.
You didn't get home till 6:30 at night. Then he ate dinner. By that time, you guys were going to bed. And then he was up the next morning, and he was out before you were even up. So he wasn't around that much. I didn't have time. And as I said, the little time that he did have off, he was hopping the bus to get to Mount Penn Pharmacy to work, or going to Air Reserves or whatever it was. Once we got and moved to Allentown, and when he started work for Upjohn, well, then he had a normal schedule per se. Got out at 8, 9 in the morning, came home at 5 o'clock at night. And he was good. He was always, he'd entertain you while I was making dinner. He would roughhouse with you. He would go out in the backyard and play, and get the Brennan kids, and he and Matt and the Brennan gang and you guys would play, and that was a good time. He had time, and he enjoyed it. That was fun. He enjoyed that. It was good about getting you ready for bed, giving you a bath. So we got 3 kids lined up in the bathtub, and then everybody driving, and everybody in their pajamas, and when it was time to take a nap, I didn't take kids' shoes off. It's okay, we're taking a nap. Everybody in bed, boom. So I got everybody's shoes off, and then everybody's shoes back on. It was like, main thing was to get you in bed, and hopefully you'd be quiet for an hour, which you
didn't
usually
have
were.
Velcro back then.
Yes, no Velcro back then. Lots of little white shoes that had to get polished. If you were a really good mother, you polished those shoes every night and washed those shoelaces. I got around to that maybe once or twice a week. But And as I getting it in, you didn't always sleep, but at least I had an hour of where I knew where you all were in a crib or in your room. However, you and Mark were notorious for getting out of the bed. One of your better escapades was realizing you could knock the screen out of the bedroom window, and then you proceeded to throw all the animals and the books and everything out the window, and some neighbor came knocking on the door and said, "Oh, are you having a sale? All the toys and books in the driveway." And I said, "What? No, we are not having a sale. Might have a sale of kids, but we're not having a sale of books and animals." Yes. Margaret had her own room, but then sometimes when the two of you were bored, you would sneak in her room, and then you'd get in the crib with her, and then that would be giggle, laugh, and then again it was throwing all the stuff out, and the time you took her diaper off, and she had load in her pants, and decided to smear everything that was there all over the room, and all over the crib, and so there were lots of adventures. It was like having triplets.
So while you were operating the Pixie, then Jennifer came along, right?
Then along came Jennifer, yes. Your father wanted another baby, and I said, "Okay, we'll have another baby." And we had another baby, and turned out to be Jennifer, born on his birthday, much to his delight. She was the biggest baby. She was enjoyed by everybody. She was everybody's delight. We'd come home from school and crawl in the crib with her. I'd say, "You can't be in that crib with her." You said, "But she's lonesome." You know.
So we're talking about the fire for the Pixie, and bought the house on Woodland Avenue, and then he went to work for
White Cross.
White Cross. Which store?
It was on Penn Street, between 4th and 5th. It was like one of the first chain stores came along, and he was really kind of eerie about going to work for them because chain stores weren't real big at that time, and they were just coming on the scene, and he was afraid his father would be really upset with him and so forth. But it was good money they were offering, and he went and took the job.
You said good money. What was it?
Oh God, I don't remember, but it was good money apparently, because we didn't have any money because the Pixie had been burned down, and we were going to go in there. And then from White Cross, he went with MediCredit. MediCredit was a deal that was going to sell a credit card to the public that they could use at all kinds of medical facilities, to doctors and pharmacies and what have you. Some of the big banks backed it, and there were a bunch of guys out of Philadelphia who had a lot of money, and they were pursuing it. And they went after the Reading area because Bank of America, which at that time was known as something else, had big roots there, and these guys were the ones that were spearheading this whole concept and idea. And so he got picked with 4 other guys to go out and sell this. And it did fairly well, but they underestimated the fact of how long it was going to take to catch on and how much money they were going to have to back it. And the backers didn't want to come up with any more money. And so the thing, after about a year and a half, kind of faded by the wayside. However, the big Mahoff really liked your father and wanted to keep him on. And there's shady shenanigans going on there. I don't understand. I don't remember what it was all about. But everybody was spying on everybody else and recording everybody's phone call conversation. And they were still sending them money, but it was half about the money we were supposed to be making. And that went on for about 6 months or so after the fact that MediCredit had expired. And we were living hand to mouth. We were in Woodland Avenue at the time, and finally one day I said, "This is ridiculous. You can have a degree in pharmacy. There were ads in the newspaper all the time. You can be making a good dollar. There's no need for us to be here tearing our hair out, wondering how we're going to make a mortgage payment and how we're going to feed ourselves. And it's time now. You've tried. You wanted this to work. It would have been a great thing if it had worked. You would have been on the ground floor of it. But it didn't work, and it's not working, and we need a regular paycheck. And so he went for an interview with Thrift Drug, and he was hired on the spot, and they had him working in a store down near Malvern or somewhere like that. And he was only there like 3 weeks when they made him the manager at Antietam. And of course, the rest was history. They loved him. I mean, he knew how to run a drugstore. There was no doubt about it. He knew how to handle people. And Antietam became a star, and from that, then they moved him to Bethlehem, and then moved him to another store in Bethlehem. And of course, he was going to be the new district manager, and he hung his hat in that. That never came around. There were 3 big times that supposedly he was up. And then he became disillusioned after 10 years, which I can understand. Because he did knock himself out. And we did everything we could to please Thrift Drug. I mean, you know, we'd go there on a Sunday night and stock the shelves with candy and clean the bathrooms and sweep the aisles and all that kind of stuff because, you know, supervisor was coming or we had to get this stuff done. And so that didn't happen. And then he is very disillusioned. He was looking for property. Wanted to buy property. He met these couple salesmen and they were all buying empty stores and houses and redoing them in them. They were making money and he just felt he was going nowhere. He was doing nowhere. He was going nowhere with Thrift Drug. He was going anywhere. And he started to think about buying a farm. So we drive around and look at farms and farm properties. Well, that was kind of an interesting concept, but you know, we still had 3 kids in high school and college, and why would we want to live on a farm after we were so used to living like 3 blocks away from the school? And what were we going to do with this and that? And then he came home and he talked about, did I see where the Christmas barn was for sale? I said, no, I said, I saw something, but I thought it said they were going out of business sale. And he said, oh, he said, I met the lady who has it. And he said, she tried selling the property and just couldn't get any nibbles for it. That was when interest rates were 20%. And he said, I've never been in that place. I don't know what it's like. I said, that place has a lot of possibilities. But I said, I don't know what she's asking for it or what have you. I said, but the concept of having the house there and that barn, and it's a beautiful barn, and the stuff she has in it is a lot of junk, but put the right stuff in, I think it could really be a really neat little business. So it's my birthday, I can remember that, and he came home from thrift and he said...
What year?
1978. So I'll take you out for a drink tonight. I said, okay. And while we're having a drink, he said, I have something to tell you, and I don't know how you're going to take it. I said, what? He said, we have an appointment to go see the Christmas barn on Sunday. And I said, well, you're going to be surprised at what you see there. He had never been in. So we did. We met with Mrs. Seibert, and she took us through the house, and she took us through the barn and everything. We came out of there, driving down Oakham Road, and I said, so what do you think? He said, that place has a lot of possibilities. I said, yes, it does. So we stayed up all night to figure out how we could buy it and make her some kind of a offer, which we did. She politely refused the next day. So a couple of days later, he had read this book about getting owners to carry the mortgages. The mortgages were so high. So he came up with an idea that since she wanted to retire, she could carry the mortgage, and she wouldn't get a whole lot of money at one time, and it would be less for us to have to put down to begin with, and so on. So we presented that to her, and she said, well, I have to talk to my lawyer about that. The lawyer called us back in a day or two, and he said, this is an interesting proposition, but he said, I'd like you to come and talk to me. So we went in to talk to him, and we went, your father says, oh boy, I'm never going to sell this idea to this guy. I said, why? He said, look what's on his wall. He graduated from Wharton School of Business. He had a commendation from Internal Revenue Service. He was #1 tax collector in the United States. It was all kinds of, he was really into accounting. And he was a very, very nice man, and we learned later that he was very highly thought of in the Lehigh Valley area and also in business circles. And he did come up with a better deal for her and for us. We only had to put up, I don't know, $1,000. I don't remember what it was. We bought the whole kit and caboodle for like $180,000. The house, the barn, the land, and the business. Business wasn't worth piddly-doddle. It was all plastic crap. The land and the barn we knew were. And he worked it out. It was supposed to be, I think, a 15-year mortgage or a 20-year mortgage. And we were to pay her X number a month, and I don't even remember what it was. And so she didn't get a lump sum of money at one time, and she got plenty of time, and that's how we got the barn, and it was all settled within like 3-4 months. I mean, that was like
When
the
did you move in there?
We moved in there, well, we packed up. It was when Margaret graduated. We were having, no, we lived in the house for a year, that's right. I mean, we had the business for a year before we moved in.
Oh, okay.
So it was 79. And because we had to sell our house, so we figured we'd stay in the house as long as we could, because the house by the barn was the pits. And we opened up in September of that year, September of 79. And had our first Christmas at 79.
Well, you bought it in 78. You said you went to see it at your birthday of 78.
Well, I must have been wrong with that. It was birthday of 79.
79, okay.
And we actually made settlement in August of
Okay.
79, and we opened up and had the first, openings, because she was never open all year round. She used to open in September and close the end of December. So we opened it up so we could get in there.
So that first year you were open 12 months a year?
Starting in 1980, we were open.
Okay.
Right. We took over and opened for ourselves the first August of 79.
Yeah.
Got through the Christmas of 79, and then January of 80, we started being open year-round.
Got it. But before you got into the barn, you did other stuff, odd jobs, didn't you? I mean...
Yeah, I used to work for Wearing Appliances. I was a rep, would go around to the department stores and be a demonstrator. Loved that job. That was a fun job. Gave us a whole set of appliances. We had everything. Blenders and steamers, and that was when the food processor first came on, and everybody had a food processor, and that's why they made a big effort of pushing you out there to show those products. I went to all the Hess's stores and Wanamaker's and all that. I made good money for that. I used to have Margaret as my little helper. She'd go out, more stores I got to cover, the more money you could make. And then if you actually sold something, and everything. But it was good money, and it was fun. Did that for about a year and a half. And I got involved with the barn again. And I was active with a welcome wagon. In the welcome wagon, I took over a committee there that raised money for the Cancer Society. That was when we sold the Christmas cards. Do something, and we sold the biggest amount of Christmas cards they ever had for an individual organization. It was something like 4,000 one year, and the second year it was $6,000 worth of Christmas cards that I went through.
Tell us about your cancer.
I was diagnosed with uterine cancer. I never get the right years straight. I think it was 1974.
Well, we were in Bethlehem,
We
so.
were in Bethlehem. We lived in Fornance Road. Jennifer was probably in kindergarten or first grade, somewhere there. So she was born in 67, so probably 65 maybe it was. I mean, 75.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
And I just had gone for a regular checkup, and they did like a pap smear and stuff. And got the results back, and I hadn't gone to Dr. Buckley, my regular doctor, who I loved dearly. I thought, oh, well, now I'm a big girl, I moved away. I should go to this other doctor. And it was a doctor that your father had called on at Upton, and he thought he was a nice guy, and Dr. Dorsey was his name. And I went, and I remember it was a Saturday afternoon, and he called me, and he goes, oh, Mrs. Swienckowski, this is Dr. Dorsey. Oh, yeah, we got the results back from that test. Oh, yeah, I know so-and-so. And I said, and so what does that mean? He said, oh, well, he said, looks like you have cancer of uterus. Oh, but nothing to worry about here. We'll do this, we'll do that. And it's like, wait a minute, buddy. I said, well, thank you very much for calling, Doctor. But I am going to get another opinion. Wow, all right. And I called Dr. Buckley right away and told him, and he said, you get down here tomorrow afternoon. That was a Sunday afternoon. He said, I'll be at the office. You come here, blah, blah, blah. And I did, and the rest was history. He said, I want you to come here, and we're going to do this, that, and the other thing, and you're going to be in fine hands, and I'm going to be with you, and you had to have any kind of cancer, this would, and I had to pick one, this would be the one I could pick, because I
Why
thought I
did
could
he say
handle it.
that?
Because he felt it was curable, it was easy to handle. He could handle it.
Oh,
So I went down and had the radiation bomb. At that time they used to give a radiation bomb. It's about the size of a little bullet. They would insert it in your body, and you had to lay perfectly flat for 72 hours. And
how do you do that?
just
How do you lay, I mean, how do you go to the bathroom?
well, they had it all with tubes and stuff.
Catheter?
Catheter, yeah.
And so did you sleep?
Yeah, they gave you sleeping pills to kind of knock you out for a while.
When you say you have to lay perfectly still, did they have to strap you down?
No, but you just had to be flat. You couldn't be up, walk around.
Upright,
anything.
okay.
But the problem was you got weaker and weaker as the time went on, because that's what the radiation did too.
Yeah.
You got very tired. So when they came that they took this out, very weak, and I can remember. So I was a nurse, and I knew her. And she said, come on, I'm going to get you up, and you're going to get a shower. And I thought, oh, I can't even sit up. No, she said, I'm going to get you over there in the shower. And it was a stand-up shower. And she said, I'll hold you in there. She said, well, just let the water run on you. In the meantime, they had another crew in there changing the bed and everything. And the water just felt wonderful. I remember that was the best shower of my life. And I just about collapsed in that thing. And she got me out, threw the clothes on me, and they got me in the bed, and that was the best sleep I had in I don't know when, but that was something.
How did the workers protect themselves from the radiation?
They had to wear big, heavy uniform things, and nobody was to come into the room, and big, sign on the door, blah, blah, blah. And went through that, got home, then waited 6 weeks. Then they had me go back for a complete hysterectomy. And I went back for checkups all the time, but after that I was fine. So, that was a scary time. John McHale used to drive me down to Reading every 4 weeks so I could see. He'd change his schedule the way his route was for his sales things, so he could get me to see Dr. Buckley.
At what point was Dr. Buckley convinced you were cancer-free? I mean,
Well, after they kept doing different tests, like every time I go down. I think it was about after a year and a half. Nothing showed up. He felt, you're good. What have you.
no?
He used to come and sit with me in the hospital. Super different, fantastic doctor in many ways. There weren't many like him.
So everybody else was pretty healthy. There were no major health scares, right? During.
No, not really.
Everybody was good.
I went on. So then when we got to be, let's see, that was 78, 80. About 82, I guess, was when grandfather started having problems.
Mm.
He had a problem with slurring his speech. Something else happened, and he realized, I think, what was happening, that he was getting set up for a stroke. He was smarter than most of the docs he was working with. And even though they did all kinds of tests and what have you, and then about a year after that, he did have a stroke, and it was a major stroke he had. Really, really affected. He really worked hard to get back to the point that he was at. But that was the thing. He worked so hard now. And I think your speech will be for everything. Your handwriting will be good for you. Just do whatever you had. And boy, he worked every day. And at the end of the year, he was doing good. He was walking good, doing that. Speech was a little slurry, his handwriting, but he never had good handwriting, so that. But he wasn't back to where he thought he should have been. And he really got depressed over that. And it's like, I give up. And he wouldn't do any of the exercises anymore. He wouldn't do anything. And of course, I think also the Parkinson was set up to go. And he came in, and then he held his own for a while, but then he just started to get, weaker and fading away, and didn't converse, and didn't. And grandmother got very depressed at that point because she was trying to protect him all the time, didn't want people to see him as he was. She was embarrassed about him. And she kept thinking he could be better, so she would have him doing all kinds of things at home, polishing his shoes, and she'd make him walk around the block with his cane. Well, he got to the point he'd be falling half the time. Neighbors were calling, Jerry fell. We have him here at the house. And she'd just insist if he'd put his coat on and get out there and walk, he'd be better. He wasn't going to get better. He was going to get worse. So it became a very lonely time for her, because it wasn't a person who had friends. She had should I say? She knew people and had a lot of contacts with people, but they weren't friends who confided in or anybody that she would go to. And so thus, I would talk to her every morning on the phone. Every morning I'd go to the barn at 9 o'clock, and then she'd vent for the day. He did this last night. He wet the bed. He drank a whole bottle of salad dressing. He did that. He won't do this. And, I plan to be there in a few hours. Okay, we gotcha. What are you up to today? I plan to be there in a few hours. Margaret. So that was kind of a sad sad time because he just faded away, and it was a long period. It was almost 15 years. It was frustrating for her. I'm sure it was frustrating for him in the beginning. After a while, I don't think he was really that cognizant of a lot of it. And she could have relieved herself of a lot of the work and care. Could have moved somewhere with him, smaller, where they had that. Couldn't have just him go. No, she wouldn't do that. She wouldn't do that. Nope. Nope. No. Part of it was she felt she wanted to take care of, she should take care of, that was her job. The other part was her pride. That she could take care of it. One of those things. I always felt that was part of it. After the fact, many years after, and I don't know, said something about her wearing herself out. And he got to the point, too, that he got nasty and didn't know what he was doing, but he'd be hitting her, and she was always black and blue, But she was always covering up. Oh, I fell here. Oh, I did that. But later on, I realized what it was. And
She bruised so easily anyway.
yeah. And she just, she finally realized and admitted, I didn't do myself any favors or him any favors by trying to keep him at home. That was silly. It was dumb on my part. But that was over with. And then in a period of there, Nana and Bacher kind of slowed down, like everybody. Grandfather died first. Bacher died 2 years after that, 3 years after that.
Well, I think the family in general was pretty healthy, though.
Yeah, he was.
I mean,
No, he didn't be real serious. And Nana just got a little light and fluffy. She was fine. She was in her own little world. She wanted to be independent more than anything, I think. And we tried to make her as independent as she could be. Money turned out to be their problem. They didn't have the money that they thought they were going to have to retire. And that was when their father and Johnny decided, they gave them this deal about a reverse mortgage on their house. Well, she never understood what that was about. She thought she was borrowing money from them and she had to pay them back, and she was always so concerned how she was going to pay it back, and she just never understood that whole deal. So then that worked, that helped. That helped them a lot, and they were able to get by. And that was fine.
how is it that he lived that lifestyle, I'm talking about Baca,
Mm-hmm.
for so long, and yet he didn't stash enough away?
He just didn't realize. He absolutely did not realize. He had no concept of really saving money. His concept was what we have now. I want to have the best of what we have now. And believe me, they lived high, wide, and handsome. Those kids bought their clothes at the best place in Reading. I mean, they always had 2 or 3 cars. That house was expensive for the time. Paid cash for it, but that was his thing. And then you still had taxes on top of that to pay. We had insurance and all that stuff. Hell, their food bill wouldn't be enough to sink a national debt. They were always having 16,000 other people sitting at their table eating. The milkman, they had 2 different milkmen. One milkman come one day, there was always milk being delivered at the door. He paid for every one of them to go to college. They never had a loan to go to college. He had the money for that. At Christmas time, he had a Christmas club for everyone. I mean, I remember the first year we married, he gave me a thing for $150. I never got $150 at Christmas. That was our Christmas club that he had saved the money up for so we could buy Christmas presents for everyone. And he did that every year. Up to a long time. You know. He really felt that, I think, that Social Security was going to be enough for him to live on. You know, that concept, he thought that was it. That was all he was going to have. He won a lot of money gambling. I still to this day say more money than he ever made in the drugstore. So, and we realized we still needed more money because we wanted to build the stock up. We wanted to go upstairs. We wanted to bring in a furniture line. So he went and took a job with Swienckowski, their pharmacy and Carriage Drug. No, first he went and worked for the nursing home in Harrisburg, or that between Hamburg and Hamburg. He used to drive there and do that. Oh, he hated that. He hated that. And it's also through the time of his Millie.
Why did he hate that?
Because he had to go back to pharmacy again.
Oh, he thought he was out.
He thought he was out. And also, that was the part where Millie was in the line, and all that was all up in the air.
Well, give us the Reader's Digest version on her.
She worked for Thrift Drug. She was worked in the cosmetic department. She, a little waif of a thing. She had an abusive husband who would beat her up. She'd come to work being black and blue and what have you. And, you know, all the girls at the store would talk over Millie, and they were all Millie. And somehow, I don't know. One night he took her out for a drink afterwards, and I got a phone call he was going out for a drink with Jim, who was the guy who was assistant. It was odd. It was something he never did. But I didn't think so. Well, then this happened every couple of weeks, going with Jim. Just didn't. There were other little things I can't even put my finger on. One thing I remember explicitly, I remember it was Christmas. They had a Christmas dinner with all the people at Thrift, the pearls at the store. We used to have one every year, and that year he said, you don't have to come to the dinner. Well, I said, what do you mean? I'm helping to pay for the dinner. I'm the hostess. So I'm supposed to be there. Kind of struck me weird. Well, so I went to the dinner and fine. And after the dinner, they were all wound up, and he made the comment about, we'll go over to Bianco's, Frank Bianco's. And then he said, Millie, why don't you come along? I thought, well, Millie Stiers want to be going over to Frank Bianco's. No. So we got in the car and I said, what's Millie? Oh, well, her husband beat her up today, blah, blah, and he left and went on a skiing trip, and she's all by herself, and I really feel sorry for her. So she came that night and didn't say boo. And then, I don't know, we got through Christmas. So Christmas came up and he was really odd at Christmas. Oh, he had to go to a board meeting for the Palmer Retail Association thing on Christmas Eve. I said, they don't have a meeting at Palmer on Christmas Eve. I said, you gotta be kidding me. And I said, even if they do, you tell them you don't go on a meeting on Christmas Eve. Well, he didn't go. So then suppose there was going to be one New Year's Eve. I said, I think that's a little strange. They didn't go to that.
What year was this?
1979. And so, I don't know, I just knew something just wasn't right. There was just something, things just didn't drive up. So I got all dressed up one day and I started over to Thrift Drug. I took the back road, and there used to be that, in fact it's still there, the 1812 Tavern or something.
Well, in Palmer?
In Palmer.
Which is Palmer?
Yeah, I took the back way over and I got there, and as I pulled up to the stop sign at this 1812 Tavern, I looked, and there was your father's little bug, and there was Millie hanging in the window talking with him, and this was like at noontime. I guess we had lunch. And so I pulled the car around and I came to the parking, pulled right up, we're at the parking lot, and I said, I think we all have some talking to do. And I pulled around and tore off that parking lot. And your father tore off following me, and he kept beeping the horn at me, and finally halfway at the top of the hill, I pulled over. And I said, what is that all about? Well, it's not what you think it is. I said, yes, it is what I think it is. I'm not that dumb. And I said, what have I done that's been so terrible for you? Have I embarrassed you? I obviously don't pay enough attention to you. I'm not a hot number in bed anymore. You're tired of being married after almost 20 years. What is the problem? Oh, it's nothing. We have to talk. I said, yes, again. He said, but please don't come into the barn. Don't come into the store. I said, don't you tell me where I'm going or what I can do.
Oh, that day he didn't want you to go to the store.
Right.
Upset.
Right. And I turned around and I went into the store. Of course, I in the store knew there was something up there. And he said, I wish you wouldn't be in our store. I said, all right, I won't be in the store. And they used to have a little, like waterway things, and they had a little bridge over the waterway outside of his store.
Yeah.
It was a screwy little.
Yeah, Palmer
So
Park.
I stood on the waterway and just stared in the store. Well, that caused a lot of stir, but I didn't care. I came home that night, It was a cold night. It was January. Got my pajamas on. He came home and we stayed up and talked all night about it. And I said, I still want to see her and I still love her and I this and that. I said, well, I said, you're going to have to work this out. And you better work it out kind of fast, whatever you're going to do. I said, first of all, I said, I think there's some counseling needs to be done here. Oh, yeah. First, he didn't want to do that, but then, yes, he did. Which we did, probably about a year and a half. And I remember came home one time from one of the counselors. And I said, so, what was said here, and he said, he was telling about this guy who had this affair for 20 years. I said, 20 years? I said, there's no way in Hades this is going on 20 years. God did that. And I said, well, how long? He said, how long do you think this is going to last or something? And the counselor said, it'll last as long as everybody wants to play their part. He said, eventually somebody gets tired of playing their part, and then it's over. I said, and that's when he said, it can last 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. He said, I know a family went on 20 years. Well, I laughed at that, but that one went on for 10 years. But part of it with him, sex, I'm sure, I know, but also it was the attraction of he was going to help somebody. He was going to educate her. She had never been to New York City, and he took her. No, she was petrified, and he was always buying albums from musical shows for her to play, but she didn't really like them. She didn't understand it, and she had been a little mouse. I didn't think she got to 10th grade when she quit school, and had this very abusive husband, had these 3 kids, and her very day. So this was going to be her knight in shining armor. He was the pharmacist. He was a career man. She was going to be safe and sound and be taken care of. So she was ready to do anything if she could have that. And he, on the other time, was trying to build himself up. And I think, first of all, it started out trying to help somebody who was upset, but then it got to be a little more involved than that, and he didn't know how to get out of the deal. So we went off 3 times and had 3 different apartments over a period of 10 years and did all that happy stuff. And finally, that's when, after 10 years, I didn't particularly like myself too much, and I didn't feel my children liked me too much, and so I went off to the lawyer, and I said to Jennifer, did she want to come with me? And she said yes. So we went to the lawyer, and we had the tape recording, and we tape recorded everything the lawyer said. He was a hotshot lawyer in Easton, dead now. I can't think what his name was. Anyway, he was a character. And I got in there, and he said, we've been talking to him, telling the whole thing, and he said, Mrs. Swienckowski, he says, you're a sharp, attractive, intelligent lady. He said, why are you doing this? I said, because I love the man. And I said, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm sorry he's not happy. Why should I give up my business, my home, all this, because he's unhappy? And I said, I've worked hard for this, and when I have some of my family money is in here. And in the state of Pennsylvania, I'm going to have to divide it up halfway. I said, I'm unhappy that I want to give this all up. And I said, if he's not going to be around me, fine and dandy. I have to have something to do. I'll keep this business and I'll run it. And it'll be just as successful now and maybe even more successful. He said, you could go off and have an affair. Why don't you have an affair? I said, are you nuts? I said, I got enough on my plate right now with kids and him and business. I said, I don't need an affair to build up my ego and whatnot. I said, I'm perfectly fine. I don't need more problems on my plate. I'll end up with some guy who had 6 kids and I'd have to worry about all their problems. I said, I don't need that. So he started to laugh. He said, well, you thought that one through. Thank you. And he goes, okay. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, you shouldn't have to be going through this. And he said, you can come up on time. This guy was known for really putting guys against the wall. He said, how much do you know about this business? I said, I think I know pretty much. I said, I don't know much about the computer end of it. And I said, the book end, because he took care of that. I said, but I know every other aspect of it. He said, do you think you can learn the other part? I said, yeah, I think I can. I said, I'm going to need somebody to give me a little guidance. But I said, I nose poke around enough and whatever. And he kept saying to Jennifer, and how old are you? Because I couldn't believe that Jennifer was in college at the time. He thought she was like 14, 15 years old, He said, what do you know about this stuff? Jennifer says, well, I can handle it. He said, okay. He said, then the two of you get busy and find out, the financial book end of it. He said, and come back to see me. I saw him like in August. Back and see me in 6 months. That'll be after Christmas. He said, you'll be in really good shape money-wise, everything else. He said, come back and see me then. He said, if you still want to go ahead and do this, he said, I'll back you
Go
up.
ahead and do what, by the way?
Go through with a divorce.
I got you.
Okay. Set up some kind of a thing where, we were splitting things or
Right.
whatever it was going to be. He said, I guarantee you, he said, you'll be on top. So we had it all taped. He left and came home, and that was like 2 weeks ago. And somehow or other, I don't ever recall telling him, but somehow or other, he found out that I had gone to the lawyer. And he confronted me and said, is that true? I said, yes, I did. I said, this is 10 years. I said, if after 10 years you can't decide that you love this woman and you want to be with her and you're willing to do everything you can, then you're pretty sad, and I don't think I want to be with you either. I said, on the other hand, I said, if you're going to get rid of this side fling here, and you want to come back here and be my partner and be my husband, 100%, I want you here. I love you. If you ever doubt about my love, then you're kind of stupid on that. And I said, we're wasting a lot of good time in our lives and our business life. I said, you always said this business could be something bigger and more, and it can be. I said, now either I'm going to take it and have it be bigger and more, or we're going to do it together. I didn't say anything. It's okay, didn't say one thing one way or the other. And then it was about a week later, I got the phone call, like 11 o'clock, it was Millie. He's a some liar. I said, who's this talking? I what? Oh, hi, Millie. How are you? He lies, I want to take him to Bermuda for his birthday, and he's telling me, I said, I already took him to Bermuda for his birthday already. I took him there about 2 years ago. Oh, well, and she went on for 2 hours. When they ended, I thought she'd be coming for Thanksgiving dinner. We were such good friends. And that was the end of that. So never said fine and dandy.
Yeah, but didn't you tell her that he wasn't going to leave the business?
Oh, yeah. I told her that. That's what I said. She said, this is ridiculous. I followed him around to hotels and motels and this and that. And I said, I could have saved you a lot of time. I said, first of all, Frank Swienckowski was never going to leave me. He might leave me, meaning not even living with me, but he's not going to leave me because of the business. His Christmas barn is his identity, and he doesn't want to lose his identity. And I'm part of the Christmas barn, so I go with the identity. And I said, it doesn't matter what you said or what I said or did. I said the barn was ahead of all of us. It's this, and you can have him, and blah, blah, blah. So I never said anything about her calling or anything else. And that was right before our anniversary, and your father came over one night and he was closing stuff at the barn. He came over and he said, I have something else. He said, I'm ready to move back, if you want me. I said, you know how I feel. I said, this is the last. I said, you move out one more time, you're never back. And he said, well, that's understandable. And he's, so we're at Millie. I told her she really went berserk in the apartment. Apparently she wrote over all the walls and I'm sorry to hear about that. they said, and we were going to New York in August because it was a big gift show. And I said, I have a present for you. And it was over our anniversary. And that's when he gave me a little gold heart. And it had 30th on it, and then there were the 4 little diamonds on it. And he said, that's one for each child and for our 30th anniversary. And I said, okay, thank you very much. You know I love you very much. Let's put this aside. That's one thing I have to say, the two of us. We never brought up or dug one another with stuff that happened. If we said it was over, and that was it. If it was any kind of an argument or fight. If we said, okay, it was settled, it was settled. We didn't throw it in your face afterwards and do that. We never brought it up in the barn. We never made it an issue in there. And the girls in the barn would know. I mean, we didn't argue. Our fights, our personal fights, didn't fly over into there. And, okay, that's part of our life. It's over with. It's done. Not what I wanted, not what you wanted, but let's move on. We can't do anything about this now. What are we going to do about today, and what are we going to do about tomorrow? And so that was 1989, and then we proceeded to go on. We got involved with really playing golf. Then when we really started talking about adding the addition to the barn and thinking about that and seeing how we could get that done, how we could get the money for that. Talking to the barn builder, moving on there.
Did the idea for the furniture come first, or the idea for the addition come first?
Furniture came first.
Oh.
Really didn't, we brought the furniture in to use it as neat display pieces, and then people liked it so much they wanted to have to buy them to displays, and it was like, oh, well, wait a minute, we're going to do them. At first we weren't going to sell it, and your father said, that's dumb. We got somebody who give it us cash who wants to buy it, we'll sell it. We can always find another piece of furniture. So, you know, of course it would drive Lizzie nuts because she just spent an hour getting this wonderful, fantastic display together, and somebody said, oh, I want to buy that hutch. And Lizzie's eyes said, you get it big, and I'd think, we're selling that, Lizzie. Oh, Jesus almighty. Then she'd get the boxes out and start banging the stuff into the box, and off it would go. So, no, furniture came first.
And when was that addition built?
The addition was built 95, we sort of dedicated in 96.
How many tons of oak was it?
45 tons, 400, I don't know, I have the statistics someplace.
Red oak, was it?
Red oak, western Pennsylvania. It's one beautiful building, there's no doubt about it. Made us proud. Those stairs, when they pulled those stairs in, I mean, it took 20 guys to be lifting them in and get them in place.
So what was your, before the addition, what were your yearly sales like? What was your gross typically?
To be honest, yeah, in fact, I was looking at some of those old books the other night. Those last couple years, 2001, 3, somewhere, we were grossing like $2.5, $3 million. What they were there, you know, I mean, the goal when we hit the $1 million thing, that was the first, and we went $2 million, that was no big year. Whatever.
But did you hit $1 million before furniture?
Close. Very
But
close.
then once you got furniture, that's when it exploded.
Sure. It was a big ticket item we went in there. Yeah. And we did a hell of a job with Christmas, but it was so lopsided. I mean, even though we sold a lot of Christmas all year round, those last 2 months, that was cash on cash on cash. And credit, but I mean, they were the money months. That's where the money came.
Sure.
And you worked all year. I always used to say, by the time we got to Christmas Eve, it was like planning a wedding. You plan all year for this wedding, you get all the details set, you know. You had the flowers, you got the boxes, you had the tissue, you had the employees, you had all your advertising done. Everything was planned. You got to Thanksgiving Eve, and there wasn't one more thing you could do. You had planned all year, the show was ready to go, and you either had it lined up right, or you screwed up big time. Usually it was lined up right. And if the weatherman cooperated, it was even better.
How many employees did you have at the?
Oh, full-time regularly, we had about 22. When we got into Christmas, we could have 32. That's a lot. That's a lot for Mom and Pop. I don't think I ever comprehended how big we had come. I can remember Lizzie one time, we were outside when we still had the shed, the old shed in the back, and we were doing something, and she and I were doing some salesman was there, and he was trying to show us something while we were unpacking it. I said, we're not big enough for that. And Lizzie, I remember, she spun me around, she says, look at me, we're big. We are big. Get over it.